A body was found in a river at dawn, wrapped in black clothes, the hands tied with red string. Villagers whispered one thing: he tried the ritual. In a small town of Nyamiri, money ruled everything. Without it, your children couldn't go to school. Your roof would leak, and your family would go hungry. Life was hard, but in the shadows, some people spoke of a way out, a ritual, a shortcut to wealth. Nobody knew exactly how it worked, but the whisper said it involved blood. The story began with Otieno. He was a motorcycle taxi rider, earning just enough to survive, but never enough to get ahead. His wife, Achieng, was growing frustrated. His kids needed school fees, and their landlord was threatening to throw them out. One night, after dropping off his last customer, Otieno sat in a smoky bar with his friend Omodi. They both complained about their struggles. Then Omodi leaned close and said in a low voice, "There is a way out, my friend, but you must be ready for it." Otieno laughed nervously. "What way? You mean stealing?" "No," Omodi said. "Not stealing. A ritual." Otieno frowned. He had heard stories. People going to strange healers, making promises and coming back rich. But they never said what they had to give in return. "What kind of ritual?" Otieno asked, lowering his voice. "You will meet someone. He will guide you. It's not easy, but it works. I know a man who did it. Now he owns a fleet of taxi and lives in a mansion in Kumusi," Omodi said, sipping his cheap beer. Otieno hesitated, but agreed to meet the contact. The next evening, Omodi took him to a dimly lit house in the edge of the village. A tall man with deep scar on his face opened the door. His name was Juma. He wore a red robe and spoke softly, but his words felt heavy. Juma didn't waste time. He asked, "How far are you willing to go for wealth?" Otieno stammered, I just want to take care of my family." Juma nodded, then listened carefully. "Tomorrow night, come along to the river bank. Bring a live chicken and black clothes and 10,000 shillings. If you are not serious, don't come." The next day, Otieno couldn't stop thinking about it. He borrowed the money from a loan shark and bought the chicken. That night, under a moonless sky, he went to the river. Juma was waiting, alongside with two other men in red robes. They lit candles and drew strange symbols in the depths. Juma told Otieno to kneel. "You must make a sacrifice," Juma said, handing him a knife. Otieno's hands shook. "A sacrifice?" "The chicken," Juma said, "for now." Otieno hesitated, but eventually slit the chicken's throat as instructed. The blood spilled into the river, and Juma began chanting. The air felt heavier and colder. Juma handed Otieno a small leather pouch. "Carry this everywhere. Do not open it. Do not tell anyone about this night. If you do, the wealth will turn into ruin." Over the next week, Otieno's life changed. His business boomed. He was able to buy 2 more motorcycles and hire riders. His children went back to school. He even started building a brick house. But strange things started happening. He would wake up at night to the sound of whispers. Sometimes he would feel like someone was watching him, even when he was alone. One night, Achieng, his wife, found the leather pouch in his jacket. She opened it out of curiosity. Inside was something dark and wet, wrapped in leaves, and smelled like death. When Otieno found out, he screamed at her. "Why did you open it? I told you not to touch my things." "What is this?" she demanded, frightened. Otieno didn't answer. That night, the whisper grew stronger. A week later, Omodi, his friend's body was found in the same river where the ritual had taken place. His hands were tied with red string. The villagers whispered again. "He broke the rules," they said. Otieno became paranoid. He tried to return the pouch to Juma, but the man was nowhere to be found. His new wealth began to disappear. His riders quit, claiming they had seen shadows following them at night. His motorbike broke down one after another. His children fell sick, and no doctors could explain why. Desperate, Otieno went back to the river at midnight, carrying the pouch. He cried out, "I don't want this anymore. Take it back." The water rippled, though there was no wind, and then he heard it, the whispers, louder than ever. They surrounded him, growing into a deafening roar. The next morning, Otieno's body was found in the river, just like Omodi's. His hands were tied with red string. The villagers said the ritual still happens. Juma is out there waiting for desperate men who are willing to pay any price for wealth. And every now and then, someone disappears, their whisper fading into the wind.